This has been such a long time coming. I feel like this is the most requested video anytime I've ever done Q&A, a text box, ask me a question. Everyone always asks, what do you do for work? What do you really do? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Jackie and I help people elevate, improve, and enhance their lives to find happier, healthier, more fulfilling lives through finding a balance between their mind, body, and soul. The way that I got to this place, to where I'm making these videos online and articles that I create on my website and sharing the information that I share, the lessons I've learned, my mind, body, and soul balance, it's all very relevant to my entrepreneurial journey. Today I'm going to go into my entrepreneurial journey and how I became an entrepreneur. I would argue that an entrepreneur chooses a fast track to spiritual enlightenment, healing. You cannot be a successful entrepreneur without acknowledging the shadow side of yourself, lesser qualities of yourself. I'm not going to go into it too deep today, but I also believe that the shadow isn't all bad and that there are a lot of positive traits in us hiding in our shadows. If I hadn't dove into my shadow, I wouldn't be here today making these videos. Within my shadow was courage to voice my story and tell my story, share these parts about me. I'm making this an entrepreneurial series because if I were to tell my entire entrepreneurial story of the last 15 years into one video, we would all be here for like 3 hours. No one would want to watch a 3-hour video. I wouldn't want to record a 3-hour video. I'm sure wouldn't want to edit a 3-hour video. I'm going to talk about how I became self-employed, how I entered entrepreneurship. In order to do that, I have to start at the very beginning, at getting my working papers when I was 13, 14 years old. Going back to 2002, I was in high school. I was in a private school and there were a lot of wealthy kids in my school, and I came from a very middle-class family and I wanted more nice things, extra things. I don't just want the regular penny loafers that our uniform called for. I wanted Coach penny loafer. My mom was like, Jackie, no. If you want that, you have to work for it. I got my first job as a salesperson at a local collectible store. Sold things like Precious Moments, Department 56, Christmas Village. We sold Yadro, those statues, any type of collectible, random little tchotchkes and gifts. They got hired around Christmas time, so they put me on gift wrapping duty. Because of that job, I am an amazing gift wrapper. I can gift wrap the hell out of presents. It's a talent that I've taken with me. At the time, I think I was making around $7 an hour. It wasn't enough for me. Wrapping these gifts, a lot of the people who would come in were men shopping for their wives, and a lot of them were firefighters. They'd have their fire department shirts on, so I would always drum up conversation. Oh, my dad, he's in 134. He was in 26. He just retired. They would always offer me a tip, put out a little tip jar, because if people are offering me tips without a tip jar, people are going to put tips into a tip jar. My boss told me I'm not allowed to have a tip jar. So we had aprons with pockets. I went home and I made a narrow tip jar that I could just slide into my pocket, and I would put the tip jar out, and if I saw one of them coming, I would just take it and put it in my pocket. I was gonna get that money however I could. My boss at the time was just like a horrible woman. She knew what an important day Christmas Eve is to my family. My mom's family is Italian American. Christmas Eve is our Christmas. Festa dei Sette Pesci, we eat the 7 fish, and I was scheduled to work on Christmas Eve. She was Jewish, so I asked her if she could work instead. It wasn't important to her, and she said, no, that's not going to work for me. And she forced me to work and miss half of my Christmas Eve. It's actually my second year there. At that time, I was like, all right, I'm over this job. I'm looking for prospects. One of my closest friends, her older sister, worked at Jessica McClintock in the mall. Throwback. Jessica McClintock, all had our prom dresses from there. You're going to a Sweet 16, you're going to Jessica McClintock to get your dress. I started working as a salesperson there. Within a year or so, I was promoted to a key holder and a manager. I was making $17 an hour. We're talking about 2005. That's good money. Gas was only like like $1 and change. Could fill up my car for like $15. It's a great job. A lot of the times I got to close with my friend's sister, so we would drive to work together. We would be closing throughout the week together, just be me and her in the store. We got to play the music we wanted. I got a sense of responsibility being that closing manager, having to do the report, being responsible for setting the alarm, locking the store up. That was a really big pivotal moment in my life, because here I am, 16, 17 years old as a manager. I'm like, okay, where can I go from here? It's also capped out at that 17, 25. They were not going to give me more money than that. My senior year in high school, and a friend of mine is working as a telemarketer after school, doing telemarketing for mortgages. And he's like, come on, just try it out. It's $15 an hour, so it's a little bit less, but you can also make bonuses. So I kept my job at Jessica McClintock, and I moved my schedule around. The marketing job was only Monday through Thursday. And I was like, all right, I'll give it a try. So I go in to interview. The man who interviewed me, I'll likely refer to him often, either as Easy or Ez. His anonymity is important to him, and I want to respect that. Since then, he has become such an inspiration to me. He was my first mentor. His belief in me has helped me to believe in myself, and he has had such a large, beautiful impact on my life. So thank you, Ez, for everything. I would not be here without you. This is an office of all men. The only women there were processors or assistants. They weren't doing the telemarketing. They weren't loan officers. This is like a boiler room type of situation. We're talking pre-subprime fallout. Remember that first day that he hired me? He said to me, I've never hired a girl. I don't know how to train a girl, but I have a good feeling about you. I was the person who's calling people during dinner. That was me. The objective of the job was to fill out a mortgage loan application. Ask questions like, what's your monthly payment? What are your taxes and insurance? Your mortgage balance? Value of your home? How much equity do you have? Income like? Filling out their mortgage application. And at the end, you have to find out what's your credit like. Your job was to get the social security number. Without a social security number to check the credit, there was no point to fill out the application. You cannot know what kind of loan you can give a person without knowing what their credit really is. Not what they say their credit is, but what their credit actually is. They say, if you're going to be good at this job, you will pull a social security number on the first night. And on that first night, I pulled 2. I loved that job. I had my business attire. I started wearing pencil skirts and collared shirts. I was making great money. I moved out of my parents' house at that time. I was 19. I was still working part-time though. And around the same time is when my mom's cancer doctors dropped her insurance and she had to start paying out of pocket. And that's when I dropped out of school and started working this job full-time. Just made sense. And if you watched my previous video, you'll know a little bit more about why I did that. I got promoted to being a loan officer. I was closing my own deals. I had my own clients. I even had a team of women. At one point, I had about 5 women who were telemarketers underneath me, so they were doing the telemarketing for me. Then we had the subprime fallout. Everything was gone. There was no mortgages to do. There was no mortgages to be had. What am I gonna do now? I had a set of skills that I didn't have prior. I applied for a job with a local car group that my brother was working for. He's a hard worker. He's a good kid. Everyone loves him. HR saw that he was my brother. They're like, okay, we got to find a place for her. Applied for a sales job. They ended up putting me in business development for BMW and Mercedes. It was a base salary plus commission. I killed it. I was making 6 figures by the end of the year. Loved the job. The youngest one in the office. I was working with a bunch of women who had families, and we had amazing benefits. These women are supporting their families on this salary, and I'm like 19, like, hey, I'm coming in with my little coffee, my little Mary Jane's and a pencil skirt. I just really enjoyed that aspect of business. The boss was just such a fucking dick, and it goes back to like same kind of issue I had with my first job, just a shitty boss. You guys suck. Good worker, I'm a hard worker. Don't treat me like shit. He was just like scum. He was just a real dickhead. And there was a woman that I worked with. She had 2 children, shaky relationship with the child's father, a shitty relationship with the guy she was seeing then. She found herself pregnant. She asked for a few days off to take some time to figure out what she wanted to do. She and I shared a cubicle. He walked over to us and started putting cash on the table. And he's like, you see what this is? This is money. And you know what this is? And he takes it all away. He's like, that's what you're going to have if you have another baby. Sir, what? He was just a horrible, mean, terrible person. These were all women who needed this job. They needed that income. They had families relying on them. My boyfriend at the time, he had his own car dealership selling used cars. I started taking what I was learning in business development for BMW and Mercedes and helping him with his business. A little website for him, started selling some cars on eBay. I was doing that. A girlfriend of mine was a makeup artist. She was working for a company, makeup artistry in the mall, wanted to do her own thing. She's like, can you help me do this also? Okay, sure. Set up photo models, up everything. We set up with a website. I had one day at work where I was sitting on the back desk, and the back desk had an extra phone, and everyone was on the phone. The back phone would ring very loud, so that someone would have to put one of their clients on hold and pick up that other line. I picked up the other line on the first ring, and my boss from all the way the other side of the room, he's like, who's sitting back there? I'm on 2 phones right now. I muted both the phones and I said, I am. He's like, you got to do better than that. Better than picking up a phone on the first ring? I literally hung up on both of those clients, and I got up and I looked at him and I was like, what do you want me to do? Call the clients and ask them if their car has a problem? I need to see you in the conference room. And I gave my 2 weeks that day. I went from the conference room quitting. I still had like 3 hours left of my shift. I was like, no, I'm done. I'm out for today. I went straight to HR, wrote 12 pages, front and back, about everything that he did wrong, everything that he did abusive. It was like 2009. If he had done half of the shit, if he had done even a fraction of the shit back then, today, he would have been canceled. He would have never gotten hired at another job. But this was a different time. Me Too hadn't happened yet. I just stood up for what I knew was right. These women were being abused by this man, and they couldn't do anything about it because they were making good money. They had amazing benefits. They were supporting their families. And where were they going to go? I got home and I was like shaking. And I'm like, to my ex, I'm like, what am I going to do? And I can't believe I just did that. He's like, well, you know, they say you fall into something that it's the thing that you're supposed to do. In consulting, like that's what you're supposed to do. And he really encouraged me to pursue consulting. I started my first company, Smooth Startup. I started consulting, helping people with the startup of their business. Before I had dropped out of school, that was what I was going to school for, business startup, business management. I was getting new clients left and right. I loved it, something that I was good at. And that's how I got started as an entrepreneur. And I'm going to end there today. Stay tuned for the next episode where I pick up the start of Smooth Startup, how I got into that, how I got my first office, how I got my first clients, how I expanded from consulting into being a full-on entrepreneur and having my hand in a few different businesses, how that entrepreneurial journey has helped to shape me as a person. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel. Again, my name is Jackie, and I help people elevate, improve, and enhance their lives to find happier, healthier, more fulfilling lives through finding a balance through their mind, body, and soul. I make new videos here every week, so don't forget to click subscribe, and I will see you next week.